Last year, I put out my first video essay for this channel titled The Rise, The Fall, and Rise Again of Ubisoft, and it's one of the better performing videos on my channel to this date. Now, there have been a few comments here and there asking me to do an update video, and at first I responded, I'd rather wait until more stuff has happened to make another video. After all, I covered 33 years of the company's life in just 16 minutes. How much of a video could I make out of just one more year? And then 2020 happened. And yeah, we've all had a rough year. But damn, Ubisoft has had it terrible. And by Ubisoft, I mean a lot of the employees at Ubisoft. Not only have we seen a monumental reckoning for the workplace culture of the company, resulting in many executives leaving over sexual misconduct allegations, but just recently, Ubisoft made an unfathomably tactless decision in a trailer for their upcoming game by painting the Black Lives Matter movement as an evil organization using social unrest to topple world governments. Which is, deeply problematic. So how did this happen? What series of events led to the most dramatic heel turn for a company in the video games industry since Bethesda released Fallout 76? Well, I've done the research, so you don't have to, and today I present to you my update video on Ubisoft in 2020. If you enjoy, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content. Let's start in chronological order. By 2018, Ubisoft had successfully fought off a multi-year hostile takeover bid by Vivendi, pinning itself as a scrappy family-owned company trying to get its groove back. And they started creating more genuinely good games, making the right business decisions, and ultimately saving themselves from a cold corporation that buys up smaller businesses in its slow march towards world domination. Now, in my previous video, I did remark that this wasn't exactly a fair self-assessment, as Ubisoft was still a billion-dollar company. But at the time, they really did seem like they authentically wanted to change, and had made noticeable improvements, giving the Assassin's Creed franchise room to breathe, providing good ongoing support for their online service games, and winning back the hearts and minds of the public. Coming into this year, however, they were still dealing with the backlash from Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, a game whose name I've only had to say once in this video, but it's already taken up too much time. But hey, they still had some exciting stuff planned for 2020. Watch Dogs 3 looked to build on the actual positive response from Watch Dogs 2, and will include what seems to be an exciting new gameplay concept, allowing you to control any character in the game. And they announced the brand new IP, Gods and Monsters, which is supposedly going to have gameplay akin to Breath of the Wild, but with a world based on Greek mythology. And let's not forget Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Quarantine. Oh shit, an actual pandemic happened. Man, it sure would be wild for them to still be working on this game now. Basically, towards the end of last year, Ubisoft had to announce that a bunch of its games were slipping, which from a consumer side, sure man, polish your games, get them finished. But from a business side, they took a hit, and investors were pissed. Hilariously enough, the exact day that Ubisoft's CEO, Yves Guillemot, was explaining to investors why they were losing money, I was working my old bartending job and was actually serving one of the other Guillemot brothers myself. He was just sipping coffee and reading his newspaper. In fact, he was a little uncomfortable when I verbally recognized him. After all, he's not really the face of Ubisoft. But I told him that I was a fan and I was happy to see them fight off Vivendi's takeover. Then I was yelled at by a manager for being unprofessional with a guest, and she was probably right, but that's not the point. In June of 2020, a slew of sexual assault allegations were made public against multiple higher-ups in Ubisoft, including a variety of complaints about the company's chief creative officer, Serge Hascoet, of whom there are numerous damning stories of. 3 separate women recall being specifically warned not to go out drinking with Hascoet. He would regularly hold business meetings in strip clubs, and if female members refused to attend these meetings, their careers suffered. And there's even a report from a meeting at Ubisoft's headquarters in Paris, where a female lead on a game who was making a presentation to Hascoet left the room. Hascoet then proceeded to pull up a song on his phone with lyrics describing sexual acts to a woman with the same name as the presenter. Naturally, as soon as the woman walked back into the room, he hit pause. Hascoet was able to get away with all these horrific acts because not only was he the chief creative officer, an incredibly high-up position in the company, but he was also a close personal friend of the CEO and co-founder Yves Guillemot. In fact, he had started working as a tester for the company all the way back in 1988, shortly after it was founded. Over time, he came to be treated like a member of the Guillemot family himself, and rose to a position of power, overseeing the development on Ubisoft's biggest franchises, like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Watch Dogs. Cindy Fitzpatrick, a former employee working in public relations at Ubisoft, said Hascoet and his team are, quote, golden children. No matter what they do, they seem untouchable. Other workers say that because Hascoet was immune to HR complaints, they either had to learn to work with him or seek employment elsewhere. But Hascoet was just the tip of the iceberg, and his high position allowed his disgusting behavior to trickle down to many other chief officers within the company, including Maxime Belande, the company's vice president of editorial, who's been accused of literally choking a woman after he became drunk and enraged, and Tommy Francois, Ubisoft's VP of editorial and creative services, who on multiple occasions pressured women to have sex with him in front of other employees, even making jokes or threats about spiking their drinks. Which, at that point, is it really a joke anymore? A reoccurring theme in all these accusations is that Ubisoft's HR did nothing to help any of the victims involved. One woman who worked at the company's headquarters in Paris under Tommy Francois said that he asked her out for drinks over and over, not stopping no matter how many times she refused him. In addition to this, she says that colleagues would regularly send her sexually explicit messages, including porn. After she reported this to HR, she was told that, quote, it's just Tommy being Tommy. Later, when it finally became apparent that she wasn't going to go out with this creep, she was told that she would have to relocate to a Ubisoft studio in another country. And once she arrived, she was repeatedly told, quote, you can't be a producer, you're a woman. And outside of the horrendous mistreatment of women working for the company, reports have come out that this sexist mentality seeped into their game design as well. While Assassin's Creed Odyssey was hailed for the inclusion of Cassandra, the female player character, who ended up receiving a nomination at the 2018 Game Awards for Best Performance, Serge Hascoet didn't believe that female protagonists could sell video games. And this led to many changes across the entire series. In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the female character Evie had her role greatly reduced. In Assassin's Creed Origins, the male player character Bayek was originally going to be killed off early on, allowing the player to take control of his wife Aya, but this was outright refused. And even in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Cassandra was originally going to be the only option for a playable character, but the team was forced to include a male character as well, just to appease Hascoet. And this was his mentality despite franchises like Metroid, Tomb Raider, and Horizon Zero Dawn, which is the PlayStation 4's best-selling new IP. And none of this is to mention Beyond Good and Evil, a Ubisoft franchise with a die-hard fanbase featuring a female protagonist. It should be noted, even after the backlash to this statement in July, Ubisoft has still kept it buried that the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to have a playable female character, who has made no appearance in the game's several trailers. And hey, while we're at it, let's throw some racism into the mix. Reportedly in 2015, while in a business meeting with Hascoet and other chief executives, the trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens had just come out, so they all turned down the lights to watch it together. And a former designer said that when actor John Boyega came onto the screen, quote, people just collectively went, hey look, it's a monkey. Fuck. Thankfully, as a result of all of these allegations coming to light, many of the problematic people at the company have either been fired or resigned, including Maxime Belande, Tommy Francois, and Serge Hascoet. They won't be missed. In addition to this, the head of global HR, Cécile Cornet, stepped down from her position in which she allowed all of this to go on, saying, quote, it's in the best interest of the company's unity. However, she is still currently working for Ubisoft. But in an absolutely buck-wild turn, the head of HR for Ubisoft Montreal claimed that these reports were unfair, and that if Yves Guillemot himself did not publicly exonerate him, he would leave and take half of his team with him. Which, I gotta admit, is a power move, but also, fuck you. Now, stories of the conditions at Ubisoft started coming forward at the end of June. On July 12th, they had their first Ubisoft Forward, a presentation in place of the normal E3 conference to promote their upcoming slate of games. Many people, myself included, were hoping to see some sort of formal apology baked into this presentation, as a sign that Ubisoft was committed to taking this very seriously. That morning, however, the company's Twitter put out this statement, saying that due to time constraints and the video being pre-recorded, no mention of this would be made during the presentation. Now, this is a lie that many people accepted, or at least said, okay, fine, but they had the time. They could have put in some message to at least acknowledge what was going on, or hell, just put a written apology on the screen for like 5 seconds. But they didn't want to. Just in case somebody was watching the Ubisoft Forward to see some cool Assassin's Creed gameplay, but they hadn't been following industry news, they wouldn't be aware of what the company stood accused of. Obviously, Ubisoft is a big company. Massive, in fact. they have 26 studios across 18 countries, so it's impossible to keep track of all of their employees. But it's clear that this has been a problem for a long time, and it's very clear that many people at the top of the company are responsible. The question is, did the CEO and co-founder, Yves Guillemot, know about the misconduct happening at his company? Well, during a company results call in July, a financial analyst, Ken Rumpf, asked Yves straight to his face. And I have to play this audio in full because it's simply amazing.
I wanted to ask a question of Yves as a founder and CEO of the company, and more important people than me will ask, but regarding what's happened recently, as kind of three options. Either as CEO, you didn't know this was happening, which is not great, or you perhaps didn't know enough and should have asked more, or you knew, which of course would not be good. Now, those are my possibilities. You may answer the question differently, but I'd like to ask, what would be your answer to the question about your responsibility as CEO? And as I say, I'm asking the question, but probably more important people than me will ask it.
In this man's whole career, Ken?
Yeah, thank you for your question.
I'm not going to bother playing you Yves' response, because of course he's going to say that he's taking the allegations seriously. But an anonymous report was given in 2019 that Cecile Cornet, the former head of global HR, said, quote, Yves is fine with a toxic management team as long as the results coming from these managers exceed their toxicity. And while Guillemot has now asked to be personally informed about each HR violation moving forward, many employees don't believe that much of anything will really change despite the forced departure of some problematic executives. And here's the thing, I'd love to tell you that this wasn't true. That Ubisoft is licking its wounds, improving work conditions for its employees, and turning things around. But just this month, we got a trailer for their new upcoming turn-based tactical game for phones, Tom Clancy's Elite Squad, which features an underground terrorist organization seeking to sow unrest across the world by organizing protests against world governments. Which, hey, wow, that's really topical, to a point of discomfort. And in an unfathomably tactless move, the symbol of this terrorist organization is in fact the symbol of the Black Lives Matter movement. And when I say it is the symbol, I mean it literally is the symbol. You can't spin this any other way. It's important to note that Ubisoft has a team dedicated to anticipating world trends to help write the plots to their games. But how in the hell could they not see that this was going to be problematic? There are people out there who truly believe conspiracy theories that the Black Lives Matter movement is being used as a terrorist organization to sow unrest. And this legitimizes those beliefs. Of course, the public response to this was a swift condemnation, and Ubisoft responded in turn, saying that they would be removing the offending symbol from the game. But hey, that's not gonna fix it. I don't see a way in which they can walk this back. And to make matters worse, the head of the team working on this game is Charles Guillemot, who amazingly is Yves' own son. Of course, I don't intend to say that every son is a reflection of their father, but his gross leadership and misunderstanding of what is going on beneath him sure seems to run in the family. Coming into September, they had their next Ubisoft Forward event, and people were hoping that they would publicly acknowledge what was going on. They clearly had the time. It had been nearly 2 whole months since the first one, and even if you wanted to argue that, hey, the Elite Squad controversy is more recent, it still happened 2 weeks prior. But despite this, on the morning of the presentation, Ubisoft tweeted out a 4-minute video of Yves Guillemot speaking directly into a camera and apologizing, even going so far as to say Black Lives Matter.
We fully support the Black Lives Matter movement.
And hey, good on him for that. But when Twitter users started asking, will this be included in the presentation today, Ubisoft's PR team had a canned response that they sent out hundreds of times, saying the exact same thing as before, blaming time constraints preventing them from putting it into the live version of the video, but saying that it would be included in later VODs. And like, screw off! You had the time to film Yves speaking into a camera for 4 minutes, you exported that video, just put it in front of the Ubisoft Forward footage and export it again! I promise you, Ubisoft has computers that can do the exporting in less than 30 minutes. Once again, they just wanted to avoid placing this into the video when most eyes would be on it, keeping anyone still in the dark from finding out the truth. I guess what I'm trying to say is, fuck Ubisoft. I'm so disappointed in you. In the video I made last year, I celebrated them for turning the ship and saving their company, all the while making great games. but now it honestly feels unethical to support them. I don't think it's right to punish the thousands of people working for the company by not buying their games, but I am starting to think it might have been better for Vivendi to buy them out. Maybe then they would have gotten rid of the toxic management team and the Guillemot brothers who enabled the years of abuse to happen. I hope that we'll see some real turnaround on this and hear some good stories coming out of Ubisoft. But with the same man running the show, I won't be holding my breath. He's not sorry it happened. He's just sorry that he got caught. Thank you very much for watching this video on Ubisoft. God knows it was depressing as hell for me to work on, so I hope you found some enjoyment in it. But if you did enjoy it, please consider subscribing and checking out some of the other content on our channel, including our weekly gaming news show, which goes live every Thursday, and our slew of other live shows on our Twitch channel, which there will be a link for down below. And hey, if you have a few bucks to toss our way, we'd love it if you went to our Patreon. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a wonderful day.